about the results of the night?
It went really well. There were some interesting things that happened. That first fight, as a fan, as a promoter, as a trainer, it was definitely a mood killer, and we were definitely worried about it because it was an interesting evening. And then also we waited all night for my friends from Team Pain had a fighter fight from Joplin, who's a real reliable kid, and they were really worried because they set up the cage and they went halfway back looking for him, and it turned out he had had a car accident, flipped the car, and he got a broken arm out of it. Jason Rios, and his just a couple of nice thoughts.
Yeah, I just talked to Rico today about that.
I
wasn't aware that night that the kid had gotten in a wreck.
Yeah, and a couple of nice thoughts for his family member that was driving him that has looks like sustained a pretty serious back injury. So.
Wow.
So yeah, it was unusual for him not to show up. It's usual sometimes that guys tank on shows, but
yeah, no shows aren't that unusual.
But the people we deal with,
but not when you know somebody a little bit.
And that his corner was already there. They brought the cage that night, so I know that they were expecting him to come.
So he got out of that role with a broken arm, but his family member who was driving him up here sustained some more serious injuries, huh?
Yeah, and we're just nice thoughts towards her, and we'll see what happens.
All right. Well, hey, let's go through the results of the fights last Friday. We'll start with that first fight, and you guys chime in if you want to make any comments about any of the fights that we had. We have some of the fighters in house tonight too, so we'll be talking to them. So especially where we have fighters in house, let's wait to get into too many details for those guys. Okay, guys?
Sure.
Well, the first fight of the night. Go ahead, Andy.
Yeah, the first fight of the night was a 125-pound match, and Dustin Pearson out of CMMA got the victory over Josh Epps. Pearson was knocked out when Epps drove a knee into his head during an attempted takedown right at the beginning of the match. So he was knocked out, but there are no knees to the head in amateurs, and they picked that up. And so I know that's not the way Dustin prefers to win. He's a very tough kid.
No, he's a tough kid. If he hadn't got clipped by the knee to the head, I feel he would have done really well in that fight. But he'll be fine. He is okay. We're having him reevaluated, I think, tomorrow, just to make sure, to see what sort of protocol we want to go back through. We take a lot of time to bring kids back after a head injury. And he's already itching to train, so my job right now is to keep a leash on Dustin. That's basically it.
Yeah, Dustin needs a little time to recover, I'm sure. But Dustin came back at the end of the night, entered the ring. They announced him, in front of
and he was already improving
really
steadily. I had one of our kids that was supposed to fight. His fight didn't go off. He's actually one of our trainers, and he's going to school for that. And during the night, he would periodically check Dustin and give him some memory tests and a few other checks. And he just continued to improve as the night went on. I think probably Dustin's one of those kids that doesn't have a real tendency towards a concussion, because I expected to see him the next day and have him have a headache and neck pain. And really, other than the actual injuries to his face from the knee to the face, he really had no complaints as to his well-being. But we told him to stay very calm.
Right. The scary part was after the knockout for me. I mean, when he was on the ring and.
Well, a lot of that was because, after he was knocked out, then he was allowed to be choked for a substantial period of time, and then beaten on some more because we had a situation where, unfortunately it happened. We had, in my opinion, I think the ref froze.
I thought about that too a little bit. I know I asked Dr. Holloway about the seizure, and he said, when you're knocked out and then you get the hair cut off, which he was putting a choke on his way down
from the knockout. It was a seizure as much as convulsions, because his body was trying to get some oxygen to his brain.
But it was scary.
It was terrible looking.
Jan, who's filming right now for the website, that was her first fight ever. She's sitting right at cage side. That's the first thing she ever saw.
You had,
this happens all night. This is going to be an interesting night.
It really does not.
Thank God it does not happen
very
often.
often. No.
They told me. So.
Yeah, she told me she had a great time later, but she was sick to her stomach on the first one. That was kind of scary.
We traveled a lot. I think last year we fought almost 100 times as a team. And in the last 5 years, I don't even know how many times we fought. That's never happened before.
Right.
I don't look for it to happen anytime again soon.
Yeah, the judge.
Regardless of what happened there, that referee has done every one of your events. He's been there, and that's the first time he's had a problem.
I don't intend to say something like that.
No, he felt very bad about the situation.
And what's funny is, some people ask for that referee to, and then later I hear, well, you can't have, he's a terrible ref, get a different ref. I just laugh because And
How
this is,
quickly the tide changes.
oh, I know, and this is my honest opinion. I know sometimes when I start my job, I'm not always ready right away. I'm kind of like not quite focused in yet, and I know everyone can relate to that. And I know that he's a good referee, and referees have to be dialed in, but I would, if I had to guess, and I'm just really guessing, that I probably wasn't quite ready yet, mentally ready there.
I mean, it happened. It
It's the
happened
beginning
right
of the
off
night.
the
It's
bat.
the first fight. It happened right away.
I really, shit happens.
Like I was in the hallway when you were on the air a minute ago, Andy, and you waved me in. So it's a perfect example.
Well, definitely from our point of view, and even with it being my fighter, I know it wasn't intentional, or it wasn't that he didn't care. He just, and unfortunately on that one, he blew that. And I think Dan would admit that.
Oh, he did, and I talked to Dan the next day.
Oh.
He felt terrible about it. So.
Well, Dan was getting heckled, and people, you
Yeah,
guys walked him out. So
Well, let's put it back in perspective, I think. This is one of my pet peeves. You don't put your head down by somebody's knee. When he went in for a takedown, he ran into the guy's knee. It's going to happen every now and then. Not every time. It may only happen once out of every 20 times.
Right.
But sooner or later, you're going to run into somebody's knee.
Yep.
If your head's down by there and you're going down.
True, but if you watch the video again, Dustin slipped left and then got kneed in the face. He hadn't gone down or changed levels yet. He brought the knee to his head. He didn't bring his head to his knee. Take a look at the video again. I'm serious. I've got it. I watched it again. I'll give you a DVD.
He didn't go down?
Nope, he slipped left. Knee to the face. This kid's done it in several fights.
He
I don't know
slipped
what
left
his
and then
thing
went in
is.
and ran into the knee.
Yeah, he had one fight before, and actually there's a photo of him on the
Yeah.
poster throwing a knee to the body.
He tends to have a tendency to get those knees up around people's head, which eventually he'll be fine. But if you're going to fight in a kick-sanctioned event in Missouri, you can't throw knees to the head.
Right. There are some organizations that allow it, and just for what happened that night, I'm against it for the
But let's go back to what Jay talked about, because I think it's a good point regardless of whether it happened that time or not. And Jay, you've equated this to when you enter the highway. Okay, when you enter the highway, you don't just go from the entrance ramp to the middle lane without looking. Okay, you have to time each one of those lanes to get to the middle lane. And I think that's a good analogy in MMA or in fighting, because you have to get through the kicking range, you have to get through the punching range, the pummeling range, and then into to get by.
Elbow range.
Well, I'm thinking they shouldn't be doing that in amateur MMA.
Well, you want to probe for a minute just to find out a little bit what the guy's reactions are. If you just stick your head, if you run into the knee, you're going to get knocked out. If you're going to run into a punch, you're going to get knocked out. I mean, you've got to sort of set it up before you make make a committed move.
Yeah.
That's all. I mean, that's all. He ran in, a committed move, and this guy was ready for his knee in case anything happened, and they just everything went wrong. Everything could go wrong that day went wrong. It just started. He was out of the way. It just started. As a referee myself, for a lot of times there are things, it was just a series of events. I don't think it was anybody's fault or there was no reflection on his skill as a referee.
Well, the best thing is that Dustin's okay.
That's the best part.
Oh yeah, the only thing that didn't go wrong was that Dustin's fine. His pride is hurt. His lips a little sore.
He did look rough
He
that
will
night.
live to fight again.
It gave the crowd somebody else pointed out to me, it let the crowd know how serious it is right away.
Right.
And
They ain't playing games out
it
there.
reminded me of I always call it the qualifying scene in a movie where the guy's the badass and, he has to kill 6 people in the beginning or does something really bad. It's like the qualifying scene of every action movie. The guy does something really tough.
Well,
And that kind of reminded the crowd real quick that, these guys should be respected for how hard they work and how dangerous
well,
it
that
can be.
happens all the time at these shows. You've got your table sitting champion.
Oh, yeah.
They all have a couple beers and they think they're tough. Those are the first people that piss me off when they start yelling, "He's a pussy, he's a pussy." If you get into that cage in front of everybody and you fight,
And take
you may not be highly skilled.
I don't even care about the fight.
You are not a pussy.
I don't want to take my shirt off in front of 1,000 people in the cage.
But if you
let alone
sit at a table with a beer and call a guy a pussy, you are.
Well, actually,
I agree. Let's welcome to the panel Pamela Rossi. Welcome,
Hello.
Pamela.
Hey, all right.
Now, Pamela, we were just talking about the first fight, and this was your first time to watch MMA fights live or ever, possibly.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see the knockout?
I was there. I was wondering if that's what you were talking about. I was blown away because we were at our booth. We were busy. Is my mic on?
You're on.
We were busy doing our selling stuff and advertising and whatnot, and we were not paying attention for a good 5-10 minutes. And we looked back, and it was still paused.